Hello and good morning. In behalf of ESINERGY project and in behalf of all ESINERGY partners, I wish you all a warm welcome to our first webinar, which is titled Transnational Webinar for Energy Stakeholders. This is the first webinar in our small series. The second will be somewhere around 20th of May. And today we will talk a little bit more about what peak loads are and why they are becoming challenge, how battery storage and photovoltaic systems can reduce peak demand, something about smart charging and flexible energy integration, how energy communities can coordinate local renewable energy, what are the community-based storage solutions, etc., etc. We will go through our pilot projects. But before all, I would like to introduce myself. I will be your host today. My name is Dragan Milutinovic, and I'm coming from RARIS, Regional Development Agency of Eastern Serbia, the project partner. And today's webinar is intended to all that are into the energy issues, specifically to energy producers, municipalities, local government, companies, just those two interested to start the energy communities, decision makers, and I'm very glad to see that we have quite a lot of people. I hope the others will join us during the webinar. And I would like at the beginning just to give you a couple of technical advices, let's say. First of all, I would ask you kindly to keep your microphones muted, just to avoid distractions of our speakers. You will have the opportunity to ask questions during our panel discussion after the introductory presentations. You will also be able to ask the questions during the webinar using the chat. We will go through the questions that we received through the chat. I would also just like to inform you that this webinar is recorded and that it is also streamed on YouTube. So for all of you who would like to remind yourself or to advise your colleague to see and hear what we are speaking today, they will have opportunity to do it on the YouTube, because as it is streamed, the webinar will be hosted on ESINERGY YouTube channel. And this is for the beginning, for the introduction. Just a brief overview of the today's agenda. First of all, we'll tell you something about the ESINERGY project. Then we will speak about why peak loads are becoming a problem. Our speaker will be Dr. Michael Stur from Baum Consulting from Germany. Then we will see 5 examples, 5 pilot projects that we have implemented through the ESINERGY project. You will have opportunity to see the examples from Croatia, Slovenia, Hungary, Austria, and Bulgaria. And at the end, we will have panel discussion. There will be opportunity to hear your questions and to see what we have in the chat. To open discussion and just to make a kind of the introduction, I will send you one message on the chat, so you can just think about what local actions exist in your area and how do you address peak load. So please, if you have time during the webinar, just answer or give us your opinions about this issue. So enough for the beginning. I would like to give the word to our lead partner, and in behalf of our lead partner, Leah Pomorie, I wish a warm welcome to Katja Karba. Katja, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. As already said, my name is Katja Karba, and I'm coming from local energy agency Pomorie, which is the lead partner of the ESINERGY project. The ESINERGY project is co-financed by the Danube region program. And I'm really glad to see so many of you here today and that you decided to join this webinar. So when we talk about energy today, one thing is clear. The system is changing very, very fast. We are seeing more and more renewable energy, more electrification, and at the same time, energy demand is still growing. So at the first glance, this sounds like progress, and it is actually, but it also brings a new challenges. The system is becoming more complex and harder to manage. One of the key issues are peak loads that we are addressing in these projects. These are the moments when too much energy is either consumed or fed into the grid at the same time. And this is not just a technical problem. It directly affects all of us, all of you, energy producers, utilities, municipalities, companies, farmers, and also energy communities. In some cases, it even limits further development. For example, when new renewable systems cannot be connected to the grid anymore, and so on. So the question is no longer only how to produce more energy, but how to use it in a smarter and more balanced way. And this is exactly the starting point of the ESINERGY project. And what did we actually do in the project? The main idea was simple. Instead of only discussing the problem, we wanted to test real solutions in the practice. So across the 12 Danube region, partners implemented 8 pilot actions in different environments, from municipalities to companies and local communities. Today we are going to present only 5 of 8 pilot actions. The rest will be presented in the second webinar. And these pilots focused on solutions like battery storage, smart charging of electrical vehicle, and energy communities, all aiming to better coordinate how energy is produced and used. The goal was actually to reduce peak loads and at the same time increase the use of locally produced energy. An important part of the project was also cooperation. This is actually the cooperation program. So therefore, partners from different countries, we were working together. We shared experience and learned from each other. But what is most important for today, that we did not only test the pilot actions, we also tried to transfer this experience into the practical solutions and recommendations that can be applied elsewhere, also by you in your own context. And this is exactly what today's webinar is about, showing what works in practice and what you can take from it. I hope that each of you will take away at least one useful idea from today's webinar and something you can apply in your own work. So thank you for the moment, and I wish you a nice webinar and enjoy the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Katja, for this introduction. And for those who are not familiar about the ESINERGY project, they now have a little bit better and clearer idea what we are doing into the ESINERGY. And better picture you will have when we show you our pilot examples. But before that, I would like to call Mr. Michael Ster, from Baum Consulting from Germany. That is the company that combines innovative concepts with practical implementation. And Baum is a solution-oriented company with the aim of strengthening sustainability and resilience in the long term. So Dr. Stör is a perfect person to introduce something about what are the basics? What are the basics? Why the peak reduction is important, and how should we address it? Mikhail, do you hear me?
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much for the introduction, Dragan. Also, thank you very much to you, Katja. Dragan, you show the slides?
Yeah, of course. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so before talking about the challenge, I would like to talk about a big chance and a very promising global development. And the challenge is the flip side of this development. And the basic message is the world is becoming renewable and electric. You see in these graphics the blue columns, which shows the installed power capacity, newly installed power capacity in different years, and the gray columns that shows the non-renewable power capacity which was installed. And you see clearly in the last years, about 90% of all new power capacity installed in the world was renewable. And you can say 3/4 of the newly installed power capacity is solar. And then in this second diagram, you see where we are with the total installed renewable power capacity. And in the past, it was dominated by hydropower. Now it's dominated by solar. That means photovoltaic. And then you have a quarter wind and a quarter hydropower, and very, very little is the rest. And what is behind this development is a tremendous decrease of cost, especially of photovoltaic electricity generation. So the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, here shows that from 2010 to 2024, the cost decreased by 90%. So I work on photovoltaics since the 1990s, and since I'm working on photovoltaics, costs have been cut by a factor 100. So there was a decrease of 99%. And this is behind this tremendous transformation which we observe worldwide. And a very, very strong example is Australia, where parts of Australia have already phased out electricity generation from coal. And you have a very, very cheap coal in Australia. So it's a coal exporting country. And this country, Australia, is phasing out coal and switching to renewables. So this is a promising development, and it's even more promising if you say, okay, it's only power, it's only electricity. No, it's not only electricity, because you can use this electricity in the mobility sector because you have a similar degrees of cost on batteries. So mobility is becoming electric. Then you can cool with electricity, and also in the heating sector, we have a possibility to heat very, very cheaply with heat pumps. So when you now look at the grid, so this picture diagram shows the situation all over Germany in June 2023. And you see a black line. This is the total consumption, the total demand of all consumers connected to the grid. You see yellow, the generation from photovoltaics, and you see green, the generation from wind power. First thing you can see is that you have peaks of PV during the day, and you have peaks of wind power in the night. So both are complementary. And this is the general scheme. And the general message is, if you want to match better, then you better combine PV and wind power, which are both the cheapest sources of electricity and the sources with the highest potential. The challenge now is that the whole generation should meet the demand. And in the picture before, you see it's not yet a problem because we are at 60% renewable energy in the grid in Germany. But when you switch to 100%, this is a simulation, you see a simulation for the all over Germany for a whole year. You see red, the very strongly oscillating curve is the difference between the load, so the electricity demand in the grid, and the renewable generation. And there are times where the renewable generation is higher than the demand, and there are times where the renewable generation is lower than the demand, and this changes very, very quickly. And this shows very clearly that even at the level of a national grid, there's a huge demand either to change the consumption or to change the generation by curtailing or to store. Next slide, please. Until now, I spoke about the situation imagining that the grid can transport and distribute all the electricity which is generated to the consumers, but this is not the case. So the so-called copper plate approximation, which is behind all the scenarios of electricity sector development in the past, is wrong. And it's becoming even more wrong when we switch to renewables, and this is a challenge now. And this slide shows a situation at the grid connection point where we have only 200 megawatt wind power connected and 50 megawatt photovoltaic power, but the grid connection can only let pass 100 megawatt. And see the blue line is wind power, the orange line is PV power. It shows a typical week. And you see red shaded areas where electricity can be generated, but it cannot be injected into the grid. So the first solution is it's curtailed. So curtailing means that you control the wind power installations and PV installations such that they produce less electricity than they could at the very moment. If you look from, stay with the slide, please. Then before, okay. So if you look at this green rectangle, this is the energy, shows the energy which could be injected during a whole week into the grid by this grid connection point. But you see all the energy which could be generated in this week by PV and wind is only about 90% of what could be injected, but it's generated in the wrong moment. And then if you do nothing else, you curtail 22.3% of the power which could be, or of the energy which could be generated. And this is very inefficient. You could see this grid connection point could absorb much more renewable generation than in this situation it does. So next slide, please. And there are different solutions now. First point, please. So the first thing you could do is that you consume electricity which is generated behind this grid connection point. And there are increasingly flexible appliances which can use electricity at different moments. So electric vehicles, for instance, you are not obliged to charge them with a certain power at a certain moment, but you can shift charging. You can also shift cooling, because normally you have a cold storage connected with the cooling. If you have a supermarket, if, for instance, the supermarket is cooled, so the whole supermarket is a cold storage. You don't need to run refrigeration at a specific moment, but you just have to ensure that the temperature stays within a certain limit. This allows for a huge flexibility in cooling sooner or later, depending on the availability of renewable electricity. The same applies for heat pump operation. There is a heat storage connected to always. So if you heat a building, the building itself is a heat storage. And you have a specific heat storage or hot water storage normally connected to. Also, you could use electricity for hydrogen generation for further use in the chemistry sector. So all these are this is electricity consumption which you can shift. Yeah. So next point, please. You can also do something with the generation. So wind power and PV power, you depend on on the sun and on the wind. You can only curtail, so you can only cut the generation, but you cannot increase. But it's different for biogas. With a biogas plant, you can generate when you want, if you have a sufficiently large biogas storage and a sufficiently large heat storage behind. And then biogas could just generate at the moments when wind and PV are not using this grid connection point fully. Third, you could use storage in bidirectional way. So when you have more electricity generation from wind and PV than can be used behind the grid connection point or can be injected into the grid, then you charge a storage. And you discharge the storage if you have the opposite situation. And the last resort, you curtail generation from wind and PV, which means you don't make use of renewable power which could be generated. Next slide, please. So what doing then? Next point, please. The European legislation allows for new forms of cooperation in the electricity sector. The European law defines new types of market actors. And when looking at the example which I've shown, you see that there is some sort of a cooperation necessary between different generators of electricity and different consumers of electricity. And if they jointly agree to use a certain grid connection point only up to certain power, then you talk about a flexible connection agreement. And this flexible connection agreement to the grid is made possible by European law and has been transposed into most national laws already. In Germany, it happened a bit more than a year ago. And if you go one step further, and you have, okay, that's further, please. The second point. No, further, go further. I already have explained this. The second point. Okay. So by cooperation agreement, just by contracts between different stakeholders and players, you can solve the problem. And if you go a step further, then you found a renewable energy community. So you have then different actors jointly acting in a form of a legal body, and they jointly generate renewable energy, they store, they consume, and so on. There are two different forms of energy community proposed by European law. The way how it is transposed international law is even a wider field. So far, I would stop here, and in the panel discussions we can go deeper into details.
Thank you, Michael. It was very clear, very brief, and very explanatory. If you have, as I mentioned before, the questions for Michael Stor, please wait just a little bit when we open the panel discussion, or just post your questions into the chat. So now it's time to go to our example. Now we will offer you opportunity to see what we did through the ESINERGY and how we implemented the pilot projects, and what are the experiences from our pilot projects. So in the first segment of presentation of our pilot projects, we will go through Croatia, Slovenia, and Hungary. And we will see how the things works in practice. So for the beginning, we will start with Croatia. And I'm happy to introduce you Nina Jurinic from MENEA, who will give us overview of the pilot project that MENEA implemented. Nina, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction and hello to everyone. My name is Nina Jurinic. I am a senior project manager at Međimurje Energy Agency. We are one of the technical partners within the ESINERGY project. Next slide, please. Next point. So today I will briefly present the Croatian pilot, which tested how a battery storage system can support the energy transition in practice. The pilot focused on integrating a battery storage system with an existing photovoltaic power plant to address one key challenge, which was to reduce peak load pressure on the electricity grid while increasing the use of locally produced renewable energy. The solution was implemented in the administrative building of the Knowledge Center of Međimurje County in Čakovec, Croatia. This building already had a 20 kilowatt photovoltaic power plant, and with the ESINERGY pilot action, it was upgraded by adding a battery storage system with a capacity of around 25 kilowatt hours and a maximum power of 10 kilowatts. And also the existing smart metering system was also upgraded to include these systems in the system as well. The local challenges were quite typical. There was a high peak demand, which put stress on the electricity grid. At the same time, a significant share of solar energy produced on site was not used efficiently. And there was a gap between planning and actual implementation. The objectives of the pilot action were threefold. The first one was to reduce peak loads and dependency on the grid. The second was to increase self-consumption of solar energy or renewable energy. And the third one was to demonstrate a solution that can be replicated in other public buildings and beyond. Next point, please. The stakeholder engagement played an important role throughout the process of the pilot implementation. Stakeholders were involved early through focus groups, through workshops and discussions within policy forums. There was strong cooperation between the Croatian pilot partners, which one of those is MENEA. We are the technical partner. The Croatian pilot partner is a regional authority, Međimurje County, and the distribution system. In addition, public authorities, small businesses, academia, and NGOs were actively engaged within the stakeholder activities. And a public demonstration event was also organized to raise awareness and to build acceptance among the wider community. As you can see on the lower left part of the slide, here is, in short, the impact of the Croatian pilot. So within 1 year after the battery was installed, we managed to achieve 50% self-sufficiency within the building and around 37% peak load reduction. Next slide, please. What worked well? There were several factors which contributed to the success of the pilot project implementation. As I said before, strong cooperation and involvement of project partners were one of them. Implementation was done in phases with proper testing and supervision, which ensured reliability, and continuous stakeholder engagement also helped to build trust and understanding. The pilot delivered several key results. It reduced peak demand on the grid and increased the share of renewable energy used directly on site, which then led to lower electricity costs and reduced CO2 emissions. Of course, there were also important lessons learned. Regulatory and grid connection procedures took longer than we expected, which shows the importance of engaging early with the distribution system operator. Procurement processes also require careful planning, as they can slow down implementation. And another key lesson is that internal technical capacity is essential, especially for operating and monitoring new technologies like battery storage systems. In terms of impact, we can stay on the slide. The pilot demonstrates that battery storage systems are feasible and practical solutions for public buildings, but also for other buildings. It improved grid flexibility and reduced the amount of surplus energy exported to the grid. It also helped raise public awareness because people could actually see how the system works in a real-life setting. Next slide, please. How to integrate a solution like ours. It begins with an assessment of the building's energy demand and existing infrastructure. Based on this, the battery system is sized according to peak load requirements. It is also important that you ensure compliance with grid and regulatory frameworks, as well to implement appropriate monitoring and control systems. And it goes without saying that financial capacities are also very important. Sharing knowledge is also very, critical. Lessons learned and technical specifications should be documented and shared via workshops, demonstration, or by peer exchange. These insights can then be integrated into local or regional strategies and even national strategies. Next point, please. In terms of long-term impact, the pilot provides a scalable model that can be applied to other public buildings, other buildings as well, and even energy communities. It supports higher renewable energy integration and contributes to grid stability, and also it contributes to long-term energy transition strategies. One more point, please. Yes. So the pathway for scaling is straightforward. It begins with a pilot project or a pilot solution, which then expands through regional replication and ultimately leads or should lead to integration at national level. This progression should be supported by adequate funding mechanisms, clear regulatory frameworks, and strong digital infrastructure. Just to conclude, battery storage systems combined with smart metering systems are practical and scalable solutions. They deliver immediate benefits while supporting the long-term transition to a more sustainable and resilient energy system. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. It was very interesting. And from Croatia, we are going to Slovenia. In Slovenia, Smart House has also implemented the pilot project, and Janja Horvat from Smart House will give us overview of their experiences. Janja, hello, welcome. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Dragan. Yes, as already Dragan said, I'm Janja Horvat. I am the representative of institution Smart House, the second project partner in this project ESINERGY. Well, in Martianci, we deployed a bi-directional vehicle-to-building charging system integrated with PV and stationary battery storage, enabling EVs to act as mobile storage for peak load reduction. So at the beginning of the project, the goal was to reduce peak loads using a V2G system. However, the current technical protocols and regulatory frameworks do not yet allow its implementation. So the pilot focused on deploying a V2B system. Despite this limitation, the approach enabled effective building level energy management, increased self-consumption of solar energy, and significant peak load reduction. So the challenge was rising peak loads are straining local grids as solar panels in EVs multiply. Yet renewable electricity often goes to waste because demand isn't managed smartly. So the objective proved that connecting PV, battery storage, building management, and EV charging into one system can cut peak demand without costly grid upgrades. So the pilot includes an existing net metering PV system with a capacity of 12 kilowatt and battery system with a capacity of 25 kilowatt hour. The next slide, please. So the stakeholders were involved from the very beginning, including distribution system operators, regulators, municipalities, technology providers, energy agency, as well as users and electric vehicle drivers. Collaboration took place through workshops, meetings, demonstrations, and communication activities, enabling shared understanding, aligned expectation, and effective implementation of the pilot solution. And what worked well? So the pilot demonstrated clear and measurable benefits. Peak load was reduced by 30.68%, resulting in lower grid stress and costs. The system enabled 7.339 kilowatt hour of annual self-supplied energy, increasing resilience and energy independence. The use of solar energy increased by 20 to 40%, reducing the need for energy imports. Energy costs were estimated to decrease by 10 to 25%, while CO2 emissions were reduced by up to 30%. In addition, a technical and management framework was validated that municipalities and organizations can easily replicate and scale. So the pilot project demonstrates that the combination of renewable energy sources, smart management, and battery storage significantly improves grid stability, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and lower cost for users. The next slide, please. So lessons learned. Experience from the pilot clearly shows what works and what does not. So the most important success factor is early and continuous cooperation with distribution system operators, regulators, and technology providers, combined with the use of open, upgrade-ready systems. Strong results are achieved when EV charging, battery storage, and PV are managed through a single energy management system, and when clear performance indicators such as peak reduction, self-consumption, and grid relief are defined from the start. On the other hand, challenges arise when key actors are involved too late, when bidirectional charging is promised without confirmed grid capacity, and when maintenance and system upgrades are treated as a secondary issue. So projects also struggle when responsibilities within organization are fragmented and not clearly defined. And what others can learn and replicate will be in next slide. Yes, this pilot shows that replication is about copying the process, not the exact solution. So regions should first clearly define their peak load challenge, align departments and governance, check grid and regulatory conditions early, design and integrate the system, secure financing and approval, engage users from the start, and continuously monitor and adapt the solution. So the first, flexible solutions are already available today. Technologies like smart charging combined with photovoltaic system and storage are cost-effective, relatively easy to implement, and can significantly reduce peak loads without major investment in grid infrastructure. The second, early stakeholder cooperation is crucial. It is important to involve distribution system operators, regulators, technology providers, and users from the very beginning to avoid delays and minimize risk. And finally, we need to think long-term. This means ensuring proper maintenance, stable financing, and clear regulatory conditions right from the start. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Janja. Now let's hear the experience from the Hungary. Robert Music is here with us, and he will share their experiences. Robert, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hello, Dragan.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thanks for the introduction, Dragan. I would like to welcome everybody. My name is Robert Music, and I'm representing one of the two Hungarian project partners in this project, IMRO Nonprofit Ltd. And so together with the other Hungarian partners, Zala County self-government, our main role was in the project to prepare an establishment of an energy community in Hungary. So what we tested, the next slide, please, Dragan. And what we tested in this pilot, we addressed a very actual challenge. With the rapid growth of renewable energy, we are seeing increasing peak loads, while at the same time, a significant amount of locally produced energy is simply wasted. Our pilot took place in the town of Lenti. So the system is based on two exciting photovoltaic plants, which often produce excess energy during peak generation periods. So we can say the key challenge was, how can we use this surplus energy locally while also reducing pressure on the electricity grid? It is very important to highlight that we did not test a single technology. Instead, we focused on an integrated approach, coordinating production, consumption, and storage within an energy community. And also, in our case, the stakeholder engagement was very, very essential. The municipality, the grid operator, and the energy provider, and also the local actors, SMEs, institutions, the people, residents, were all involved in the planning, planning process during the project. So what worked well? In my opinion, is that the results of the pilot clearly show that this approach can work. It works. In quantitative terms, we achieved around a 10–11% reduction in peak load, which is already significant at the local level. This corresponds to roughly 110 kilowatt reduction during peak periods. So in addition, more than 160,000 kilowatt hour of energy can be used locally each year, energy that would otherwise be wasted. But beyond the numbers, the figures, the system level impacts are even more important. Reduced grid stress, better utilization of renewable energy, and lower energy cost for participants. What worked particularly well was the organizational side. A strong municipal leadership, early stakeholder involvement, and a clear business model. And I think the key lesson is that this is not just a technical issue, and the success depends on aligning technology, regulation, and governance. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, the question is what others can learn and replicate. I think one of the most important outcomes of the pilot is that it provides a replicable model. And this is not about copying a specific technology, but about replicating a logic. How to coordinate local renewable generation, flexible demand, and storage. And the first step is always to understand local energy flows, when energy is produced and when peak demand occurs. Then comes early stakeholder engagement, which is critical for the success. It was our opinion and experience. It is also essential to define a clear governance structure and to work closely with the grid operator. The key insight is that we don't always need a new infrastructure. In many cases, smarter use of exciting system is enough. And the legacy of this pilot is a scalable model that can be applied in other regions, other cities, supporting renewable integration and improving grid stability. So that is why we say this is not just a pilot, it is a solution that can be scaled. So it is from my side about the Hungarian pilot. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Robert. And now when we saw and heard about the three examples, just to broaden the understanding of how the things works, I would like to use the opportunity to ask some questions to our presenters. So, Nina, if some municipality in Serbia or other country or Croatia, whatever, wants to start with similar photovoltaic and battery system as you did, what is the thing that you would like to point on that can be potentially costly if we make mistake? What to specifically look on to avoid the costly mistakes?
I would say that gathering information about the cost of the system itself is crucial, so that you can then plan your financial capacities or plan your budget accordingly to the planned expenses. And also, before you start with the implementation, just take a look into regulatory and grid connection procedures in your country or your region, so that you are aware what will be asked from you before you start with the implementation, so that this doesn't affect or prolong your pilot implementation in the future.
And what was your biggest challenge? It
Our
was something technical, financial, administrative, how you managed it. What would you do differently if you would start today with a similar project?
we had our biggest problem was regarding regulatory and grid connection procedures. This was one of the major challenges that we faced during the pilot implementation, which we had a bit of a delay of the main project design, which was an important step before we could proceed with the public procurement processes. So we had to wait for the approval from the Croatian distribution system operator to give us the approval. It's called electrical power purpose in Croatia. You have to have it before you can start implementing.
We can say bureaucracy issues.
Yes. So this was our biggest problem, which so we couldn't finish the main project design without this approval, and the main project design was crucial for us to start the public procurement processes. So it was a bit delayed because of this. The thing is that since we have a PV already installed in the building, we had to only request the approval for the battery storage system, and our DSO they didn't have this kind of approval before, so they had to check how to issue this approval, what to write in it, and so on. So this is what caused the delay in our planned public procurement. As you said, a bureaucracy.
Yeah, and this is something that is common for all of us,
Yes.
not only for you. Okay, thank you, Nina, very much.
Thank you.
Let's jump to Slovenia. It's nearby. Janja, what do you think? How can other regions start introducing smart charging without large investments? What can be done as a simple first step? And similar, as I asked Nina, what would you do differently if you would start the project from the scratch again?
Answer on the first question. Yes, regions can start by connecting existing EV systems with a single smart EV charger and basic energy management software. This simple step does not require major investments or grid upgrades, but it immediately enables charging EVs when solar energy is available, shifting electricity use away from peak hours and collecting real data on peak reduction and savings. And while running a small pilot, it is important to engage the distribution system operators early, review regulatory conditions and available incentives, and monitor simple KPIs such as peak load, self-consumption, and energy costs. And at the same time, visible benefits should be clearly communicated to decision makers. And the key message is that the large investments are not needed to begin. So starting with one site, one charger, and existing solar power allows regions to scale step by step based on proven results.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Anya.
And
Robert, sorry, Anya, we are a little bit behind the schedule, so I will try to fasten up the things. You all have mentioned the stakeholder involvement as a very important thing. Robert, what was the first step and what is most important to build the trust among the stakeholders?
Oh, Dragan, I think this is a really, really good question. That's my opinion, because trust is actually one of the biggest challenges when setting up an energy community, especially in Hungary, but I think also in other countries. You know, in Hungary, the different possible participants don't have so much information about energy communities because not so much energy communities exist in Hungary. From our experience, the first step is an early and transparent engagement with all key stakeholders and relevant participants. You need to involve them from the very beginning. So before any technical or business decision are finalized, the very beginning, and clearly explain the goals, the benefits, and what it means for them in practice. So in this case, we organize the different interactive events, workshops, discussions, local meetings, where the stakeholders could ask questions, share their thoughts, concerns, and really understand the objective of the initiative. So this kind of two-way communication is very crucial, very essential, very important. So trust is not built by just informing people and the different participants, but by involving them. So I think when the stakeholders feel they are part of the process and can shape the solutions, so they are much more likely to support it and stay engaged in the long term. So it's very short. I think that the trust starts with the involvement.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. It is something like Sun Tzu in the Art of the War said, keep the friends close and enemies even closer. So thank you very much, Robert. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Yanya. And we have to hear for another two examples. I'm happy to announce the Andrea Dornhofer from Innovation Center Weiz from Austria. And I would like, first of all, to be sure that she can hear us. And
Yep, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
her. Yeah. Okay, Andrea. Welcome to the club. And now let us to hear your example.
Okay, can you open my presentation?
Sure.
Yes, first of all, hello from Austria. We are also partner in the ESINERGY project. My name is Andrea Dornhofer, and we are with our pilot at the Innovation Center Weiz. We were a demonstration pilot. I would like to guide you a bit through our pilot action. We have an energy node here in Weiz, and on our campus, we have realized a first concrete implementation of a local energy integration. This includes an already installed photovoltaic system with a capacity of about 120 kilowatt peak, which forms the backbone of our local renewable electricity generation. In addition, we implemented an electricity storage on site. The first test was carried out using a redox flow battery with the aim of evaluating its suitability for flexible medium-term storage in an industrial context. A key element of this pilot is the energy community, which has already been successfully established here in Weiz, and we have around 250 members at the moment. In this community, we have clear and transparent electricity tariffs. So the purchase price for electricity is 11 cents per kilowatt hour, while the supply tariffs to feed in the grid is 9 cents per kilowatt hour. So based on real data, the average expecting savings per member is about 300 to 350 euros per year, which underlines our idea of a really attractive model. Yes, we of course, not everything went perfectly from the beginning, so it's important also to address the problems here in Weiz. And we said that during the operation, the technical problems with our redox flow storage system related to leckages were really deep. So as a result, the storage system could not be operated as we originally planned. We were in close contact with the manufacturers, and maintenance works have been ongoing, but the system did not reach stable operation. So we came to the conclusion, or the consequences were that we decided to adapt our approach. So we implemented a new storage system with about 40 kilowatt hours, and we started this operation last June. And so now we see under real condition what can an electricity storage be also part of this energy node of the flexibility of the net, and also be part of the energy community. Yeah, next slide. Yes, and as our energy community, this is fully operating, and we have a lot, as I mentioned before, 250 members, including 18 companies and more than 230 households. The mix is particularly important as it demonstrates the feasibility of combining residential and commercial users within one energy community. In addition, we have monitoring and data collection equipment also, which is fully installed. And this allows us to track the generation, the consumption, and the exchange patterns in detail, and we can provide a solid databases for optimization, replication, and evaluation, and also to other regions. Yes, and my last slide is coming. The next slide, Dragan. Okay, yes. So finally, I would like to briefly explain how we ensure the long-term sustainability of this pilot action here in Weiz. So the energy community is legally established as an association and providing a stable organizational framework. So the project partners here in Weiz are actively involved in the executive board and also take responsibilities for the ongoing operation and the development of the community. As well, our regional energy agency is located directly in our offices and plays a key role in continuously recruiting new members and providing energy consulting services. So this ensures a steady growth and long-term relevance. And regarding our storage system, it's owned by the Innovation Center of Weiz. Even though there is currently no direct economic benefit from operating the redox flow storage, the Energy Innovation has a strong interest in maintaining and further developing storage solution as a part of its innovation mission here in Weiz. So our pilot demonstrates how technical solution and organizational structures and community engagement can be combined to create a durable or scalable and economically attractive energy model for a region and for a campus. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. It was very clear and brief. I have a couple of questions, but I will ask them a little bit later because before that, I would like to call Mr. Todor Tonev to present us the example from Bulgaria. Todor is not in Bulgaria now, I think. Todor, you can hear us. Mr. Todor Tonev is from Union of Bulgarian Black Sea and Local Authorities. Todor, hello, welcome,
Hello.
and please give us the overview of your pilot project.
Hello from my side. I am actually from Bulgaria, Varna, but now I am in Brussels. Our pilot module was about to integrate battery smart system in a small factory in the Bulgaria, which produce some kind of glass production, let's say. I try to make my presentation just to give an idea to the stakeholders how they can reduce the peak loads, also how exactly have to use the battery smart system because the investment is high. So the glass factory, as all of us maybe know, is a highly energy intensive productions. And in our factory, we was already installed previously photovoltaic system, and under the ESINERGY project, we make a pilot module with battery system and smart energy management system. As you can see on the picture, we try to cut the peak load. Also, we try to use the electricity which was produced from photovoltaic during the high generation, and to use this stored electricity when the sun is missed, let's say. So we have different type of management: peak load management, generation management, and consumption management. Stakeholder engagement. As a Union of Bulgarian Local Authorities, we can join all type of necessary stakeholder, like energy experts, technical university, and also auditors, and of course companies. The next slide, please, Dragan. So key results. You can see just some pictures from the installation of the battery system with, of course, inverters. I not explain very in detail technical issues, but as you can see on the picture, we have PV panels, we have battery energy system, and through intelligent monitoring and management, we manage the electricity in depends of the needs. So key results: we reduce the CO2 emissions which coming from the factories. We increase the using of the renewable energy sources. Also, not least but not least, we decrease the money for the energy which factory have to pay. Lessons learning. It's a very important to size the battery system correctly because it's a high investment, and also it's a very important to make a suitable software energy management system and monitoring, which to work properly for the example or for the factories. And also we have to have attention about local DCO, which in our case for Bulgaria, it's very important because in the legally for the legal reasons. And the next slide, Dragan, please. What can replicable? Maybe almost all type of factories can replicable this module because all type of factories needs of electricity, of course. the crucial moment is how to choose the properly battery system, the properly capacity of the battery system, and the properly software for the energy management and monitoring. So as maybe if the previous question from the Dragan, what is the first step? I think the answer is energy audit. The properly energy audit is very, very important, just to put what we need and how much it costs. And of course, to work properly. Of course, under our project, there is a lot of database which can be used from stakeholders to make, let's say, some estimation what they need in the very beginning stage, just to know how it will cost and what they can save it. So the model is, in my thinking, very replicable and profitable to use it. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, Todor. It was very brief and explanatory. I will ask you just to stay with us a couple of minutes more, because I have a couple of questions. But before you, I will try to go back to Austria. And one question to Andrea is, you had some technical issues, because we often rely on technology and consider it as less prone to mistakes and problems than people in nowadays. But what are your experience? What did you learn from working with innovative technologies in real condition, in real situation?
Oh, I can hear you. Yeah, our focus is to realize technical, or to be as act as a test bed for new technologies here at our campus, right? Yes. What we learned is, if you have to finance this completely on your own, you have no chance to be a test bed for new technologies like a redox flow or a hydrogen or something else. We always try to do new things or new. So mostly we organize or base on research projects where we try to implement new solutions here in our region. That's the basis, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. And when we are creating energy communities that are combined with the storage systems, what should you prioritize first, technology or the people?
Yeah, it depends. It's both must be, because in our case, we first started to create the energy community, the storage, and then go to the broad public. First of all, together with the policymakers, first with workshops and so, and then slowly we started to get more members. First with the technical solutions, and then to the stakeholders with a fixed solution.
And when we are about the policymakers, if we want to convince them to support us or to invest, what is the strongest argument for them to do this?
Yes, we most have projects where the policymakers not to have invest much, so because the investments of the policymakers or of the communities really low. Maximum they gave some subsidies or incentives, but not really big investments. Otherwise, we get
how to
subsidies
push them to support us more.
Yes, yeah, we try to make like projects and then involve the communities with projects like ESINERGY, so we can involve the policymakers with a concrete projects. Otherwise, they won't invest or they won't support us.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Todor, you are still here?
I'm here.
Your experience, why such a projects would be interesting for small and medium enterprises, companies? What should they consider before investing in similar pilot projects or projects at all?
The first reason, it's money. Maybe 2 years ago, all of us remember the price of the electricity. It was 1,000 euro per megawatt hour, which in that time was extremely high. We don't know in the future, is it will be again this situation. But as you can see, every year the electricity price just increases. So they if the factory use this kind of system, they just save money. The second, of course, it's about the electricity security. Because when the factory have battery, they have more the high level of security of the electricity power. Because in Bulgaria there is some kind of problems, and there is a possibility in 1 hour or more just to cut off the electricity. And in case of a glass factory, which is extremely important to have always the power, it's extremely important. Or if the company use the refrigerators, it's also very important to have security line of the electricity, which another point. Of course, the CO2 emission reduction is very important, because there is a market for the CO2 savings, which also it's again a point of profitability. And to measure in the right the investment of the battery system, as I taught in the presentation, it's very important, the first step, to make properly energy audit.
Okay. And I asked Andrea about the support from the policymakers. What is your experience? What kind of support, policy or incentives still missing in Bulgaria to have more projects like this or to expand them in the future?
We have some good points and some bad points in Bulgaria. Good points, there is a grant possibility for the install the battery system. The bad points, let's say, is still there is a very beginning the energy community in Bulgaria. The wall is still not very well organized to be easy to make an energy community. So up to now, it's very easy to make battery system in the single factory, but it's very hard to make energy communities between different factories, and to use sharing this battery system. So maybe the next year it will be more easy, but up to now, that's the not good point for us.
Thank you. And now, when we heard about the all 5 examples, it's time for your question, and I will just continue with you, Todor, because meanwhile we received one question just for you from Luka Kostic through the chat, and the question is, how much did you manage to cut down costs of peak loads, and what is ROI of the solution implemented in your opinion?
We cut off approximately 25% of the peak, which means we use generation from photovoltaics, which was unnecessary, and to store it to the battery, and we use this, let's say, unnecessary electricity when during the night, for example. So it's a real cost savings. How much is the ROI? According the estimation up to now and what we see, it's approximately 7 to 10 years. But we have to have in mind the price of the electricity, as I told before, 3 years, and we don't know in the next 5 years how much it will cost the electricity. So the 7 to 10 years, if the price is same like this year.
Thank you, Todor. If you have a question for any of the panelists, please raise your hand and we'll give you a floor, or just type the question in the chat. We also have the question from Giuseppe Colantuono for the Whites pilot. And the question is there a defined financial scheme for the homeowners, tenants, to join the community? How does it work in practice?
Yes, we have a calculator online where you can implement your actual energy costs, and then you see it in comparison the cost for the energy community. So you have the savings per each kilowatt hour. You can see it. I can also show it in the chat. If you can see it, that the savings, you can see the savings for your own electricity bills or invoices if you be part of the energy community. It's about between 5 and 8 cents per kilowatt hour, the savings, if you compare to the electricity operator and the energy community.
Okay. Thank you, Andrea. I have asked in the chat the question just for thinking or to share with us what local actions exist in your area to address peak load. And we have received a couple of inputs. Sergei Besonov said that he lives in Ukraine and that they are currently trying to rebuild destroyed transformer substations first and foremost. Is probably the most critical issue. If Sergei would like to share some additional info with us, he is welcome. And also we have received the input from Janja. She said that in Slovenia, several local actions exist to address and reduce peak loads in the electricity grid, although many are still in development of or in the pilot phases. At the level of distribution companies such as Electro Ljubljana, advanced metering systems, smart meters are being introduced, enabling better monitoring of electricity consumption and more effective demand management. At the national level in Slovenia, EcoSklad supports investments in photovoltaic systems, energy storage and energy efficiency technologies, which indirectly contribute to peak load reduction. If you have some more questions, please, it's your time, and the panelists are prone and waiting to answer. Michael?
Yeah, maybe just to add something. In the ESINERGY project, we have pilots which have storage at the building level in most cases. And in some cases, like in Hungary or in Austria, energy communities where the participants are spread over this is municipality. Yeah, also a little bit larger area, but it's still local. And one question which often arises is, what is the best level where to put storage in order to deal with peak loads on the grid? And the answer is, the smaller the storage and the more distributed, the better. So what we did in the ESINERGY is better than installing huge storages at a few points in the grid, because this is more difficult to control and optimize. Yeah. However, when you look at costs, you can optimize when you go at community level, so a municipality or a city quarter, because then you have the possibility to combine different sources of renewable electricity. So when you take the surrounding area and If you include the surrounding area, you can have wind parks, you can have biomass and so on. And you can have storages which are a little bit larger and shared. This is a little bit more cost effective than doing everything at the building level. Yeah? But even more important than if you put it at the building level or if you put the storage at the community level is how you control the storage. This is a crucial point. Yeah. So the loads on the grid are only reduced if you manage the storage accordingly. Yeah, and this is a huge challenge on which a lot of research and testing is going on.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Very valuable input. Some more questions? If not at the moment, you still have some time, because for the last and while we are talking about this, you can still post some questions in the chat or whatever, just to raise a hand. And meanwhile, while you are thinking about the potential questions, I will hand over again to Katja. And she will give us more insights on first steps for starting a flexibility or peak reduction initiative and give us some examples of simple measures. Katja, you here?
Yeah. Thank you, Dragan. The presentation, please. Yeah, the key question is now, what can you actually do next? And here I want to be clear. You don't need to start with something big or complex. From our experience in ESINERGY, the most successful initiatives always started small, as already Michael pointed out this. The first step is simply to understand your own situation. When do you have the highest consumption? Or when do you produce the most energy? These are the right questions, because the peak load is not something, let's say, abstract. It always happens at very specific times. Once you see this, you can already identify simple improvements. For example, can you shift some consumption? Can you better use your own energy? Or maybe store it instead of feeding it into the grid at the wrong moment. Then another important step is not to do this alone. Talk to your local partners, grid operators, municipalities, companies, or even local communities if they exist. So what we saw in the project is that cooperation is key. This was several times highlighted. So no single actor can solve this alone, but only together, and solutions then become much easier. And very importantly, use existing support. Many regions already have energy agencies or support structures that can guide you through these processes. So in our strategy, which is called master plan, and also within this strategy, the action plan, this is clearly highlighted. Creating support systems and simplifying access to information is essential for starting new initiatives. And finally, you don't have to reinvent anything. The pilots we presented today are already tested solutions. So your job or task, if I may say so, is not to invent, but only to adapt. Next slide. And if we go one step further, what are the concrete solutions you can actually implement? So let's keep it very simple. The first one is smarter energy use. This sounds very basically, but it has a huge impact. Even small changes in timing can reduce pressure on the grid significantly. The second is storage, especially battery storage. This is one of the most important lessons from our pilots. Instead of sending excess energy to the grid at the wrong time, you keep it and use it later. This directly reduces peaks. and also increases your independence. And the third is demand response. This means adapting your consumptions to the needs of the system. It can be manual or increasingly automated. And this is where digital tools and smart meters become important. They give you control and allow better decisions. And then we have also energy communities. This is one of the most powerful, very strong concept we work with. Instead of thinking individually, you work them together. You produce, share, and use energy locally. And this not only improves efficiency, it also increases participation and also acceptance. In fact, our strategy, master plan, clearly shows that combining storage, smart control, and active users can significantly reduce peak loads and improve system resilience. And if I should summarize everything in one sentence, I would say that start small, then cooperate, work together, and build step by step. The transition will not happen through one big solution, but through many small practical actions like this. Dragan, you are right on the time. Shall I continue or?
It was quite a precise underlining what our speakers, our panelists were talking, and what the ESINERGY project have been doing for more than 2 years. So I think that this is something that very good lessons, and everybody should learn from that. Of course, it is not always easy to learn from the someone else's experience, but if you want to go cheap, learn from someone else's experiences. This is the point. And yes, I would also give you a chance to give us some, as a lead partner, some final remarks, because meanwhile we didn't have receive any other questions. So we are almost 90 minutes into this webinar, and it is time to close it for now, for let's say for the first half, because the second half will happen in a month.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Dragan. Just a very short remarks from my side, because we still have 1 minute. I hope I can put everything into this short time. So before we close, let me briefly highlight 3 simple messages that we would really like you to take with you. These are the messages that we learned during and through our project implementation. So first, flexibility is not something for the future, it is something we already need today. With increasing renewable energy and electrification, pressure on the grid is growing. And this is not only a technical issue, it is also a policy and organizational challenge, as we discussed today. Second, the good news is that solutions already exist. Through our ESINERGY pilots, we have seen that battery storage, smart energy management, energy communities, and demand-side flexibility are not just ideas. They are the pilots that work in the practice. So you don't need to start from zero. You can take these solutions and adapt them to your own context. And third, and my last message, cooperation is absolutely essential. What we clearly learned is that no single actors can solve this alone. So municipalities, policymakers, grid operators, businesses, SMEs, citizens, all have own role in this process. So only when these actors work together, real change become possible. So if you remember just these 3 points, you already have a very strong starting position for your next steps. And finally, what's next? We would really like you to stay connected with our project. Our next webinar will take place on the 20th of May. In 1 month. This webinar will focus more on the policy side and give you also opportunity to present our sister Danube projects. We will invite other projects to see what they learned. So we already have your contact, so wait our next webinar invitation. Then we would also like to invite you to our final conference. It will take place on the 18th of June in Varna, in Bulgaria. There we will present the full results of the project, including all pilot solutions and lessons learned. It will also be a great opportunity to meet partners, stakeholders, and experts in person. So if you have the possibility, we would be very happy to see you there. And of course, all project materials are already available or will be available soon on our project website. This includes also the master plan I was talking about, policy briefs. These are the pilot solutions in that version, then pilot results, evaluation results, and practical guidance. You can find everything, including today's presentation, on the project website, together with contact details if you want to follow up or ask additional questions. The webinar is streamed, thus it will be also available on our YouTube channel. So, if there are still some questions that remained unanswered, please feel free to contact us. You can find all our contacts on the project website, as I said. And the last few words, thank you all for joining us. Thank you to all our speakers as well. We hope this gives you useful ideas for the future, and hopefully see you at the next ESINERGY event. Thank you, and I wish you a nice day.
Thank you, Katja. Thanks again to all the participants, to all the panelists. Thank you for your time. See you, if not before, then on 20th of May for our second webinar. And meanwhile, as Katja said, you can recommend to some your colleagues who didn't have time today to participate to our webinar to just take a look at it. It will be available from now on our ESINERGY YouTube channel. You just Google for it and you will find it very easy. Thank you again. Thank you, Katja. Thank you, Nina, Janja, Robert, Michael, Andrea, and who am I forgot?
Todor.
Todor. Thank
and
you.
Yourself.
Yeah. Thank you again and good luck. See you in the May.
Thank you. See you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.